Life can be uncertain, complicated, and at times overwhelming. My parents told me to enjoy being a kid whilst it lasted, and now I know why. Being an adult means there's always something we need to do. Work, paying our rent, having random expenses always pop up, doing so many jobs around the house, making time for our family and friends, and somehow having time for ourselves. I find that simplifying my life in as many ways as I can makes it more manageable, more enjoyable, and less like a never-ending to-do list. If you're someone who likes to learn a lot, or if you're quite driven, it's really easy to suffer from shiny object syndrome. You set a goal and you get really excited, but then a new idea crosses your mind and you want to chase that new project. The end result is a to-do list that never ends and feeling completely overwhelmed. I personally struggle with this a lot. I wanted to start YouTube and I did a YouTube course. And then I got excited about the idea of drawing and I signed up for a drawing course. And then writing, and guess what? I signed up for a writing course. It's not bad to be motivated, but it is a problem when you always feel overwhelmed and you can never finish things. So to avoid this, try and focus on one thing at a time and really sit with your goals beforehand to understand how much you actually want to do them. I love starting and ending my day with a string of comforting habits that lead me through the day. Having a routine means that I stay intentional with what I do. I don't have to think about it or get overcome with decision fatigue, and that feels like a breath of fresh air. I think at some point we just have to accept that we will never be able to do everything, but the good news is that not everything matters equally. 20% of what you do results in 80% of your outcomes, so rather than doing everything at 100%, focus on the 20% that's going to give you the greatest output. Sometimes we forget what's really important to us in life, so to make sure that my life is centered around what I want it to be, I often think about how I'd feel at the end of my life. What would I regret doing, and what would I regret not doing? What would I go back and tell myself? This tells me what my priorities are, and I focus on just those. Everything else can fall behind, because if that happens, I know it's not going to have a huge effect on my overall life. I use my laptop for YouTube, emails, and general browsing. I use my iPad for Instagram and Twitter and for drawing on Procreate. And I use my phone purely for phone calls, WhatsApp, using the camera, and Spotify. By being intentional with each of my devices, I found that I'm a lot better at not letting my digital life control or overwhelm me. I'm not someone who spends a ridiculous amount of time scrolling. I very rarely sit there comparing my life to others, and I feel like I make the best use of each device. This has really simplified my life by giving me clarity when it comes to my digital life. I love food, but I hate thinking about what to eat. There's nothing worse than being hungry and having nothing in your fridge. You end up going to the supermarket and not being able to think straight, or you cave and you order that takeout. So now every Saturday I make a plan of all the meals that I'm going to have the next week, and I write a shopping list out. Now this is such an adult thing to do, but it's the main reason why I eat at home most of the time. It's why very little food ever goes to waste. It's the reason I eat quite healthy because I never stroll through any other aisles at the supermarket, and it means that I only have to think about what to eat once in the week rather than every day. If I miss a meal, I get really grouchy, but sometimes I do run over in my lunch break when I'm seeing patients, so I always make sure that I bring in lunch with me, and this is so much easier when I make food the night before. I actually make the same meals for each day of the week so that I don't have to think about it. I know it might sound a tad boring, but then I let my evening meals be the more exciting one. We have a set weekly cleaning routine and a routine for when we clean things like the fridge. We also have our set roles, so we both know exactly what we're cleaning each week. This means that we always make sure it gets done without having to give it much thought. I love Notion, but I'm actually more reliant on my notebook now. I make lists for everything. I have a shopping list, a reading list, a packing list, and even a movie list. Now I also write down everything that I need for YouTube videos on paper, and for some reason I feel less overwhelmed because of this. I don't know what it is about the act of writing that makes things feel more simple, but it works. So this is what adult life comes down to: being organised. For me, it's just a case of having this folder and putting any important documents like contracts, invoices, or letters relating to my work into it. Whenever I need a document now, it means that I'm no longer searching through drawers and paperwork to find it. Finances has always been one of those things that I've approached with this feeling of uneasiness, so I just try to keep it really simple. I just look at how much of my income goes towards my living expenses and how much I want to save or invest, and I keep it as basic as that. I also automate as much as possible, so for example my rent, bills and dental expenses are automated, and where I can pay for things annually rather than monthly, I also do that so I don't have to think about it as often. I used to love experimenting with makeup and skincare products, but now I have the same go-to products. It makes doing my skincare and makeup a lot easier as I know exactly what I'm reaching for, but it also makes buying products easier as I don't have to spend ages researching products and looking at reviews. It also makes it easier to travel as I know what to pack. I actually finish products now rather than having to throw away things, and it saves me a lot of money. I think one of the reasons that life feels so complicated is because we're always being swept up in the rush. Very rarely do we get a chance to just slow down. That's why I think it's important to find something that helps you slow down in the moment. So for me, this is drinking tea, yoga, reading, journaling or drawing. Those pockets of time where you choose to slow down helps you to become less overwhelmed. They become the moments where you choose the pace in your own life. I've become really good at saying no to things. Being busy does not make you important. If anything, every time you put something in your diary, you trade away your time, so trade wisely. Our lives these days are filled with an endless flow of communication. It can take up your whole day if you let it. It's like we always have someone we need to reply to, so many emails left unanswered, and so many people we need to contact. I know we can't cut out all contact, but instead maybe we can put a limit on our communications. So for example, emailing only at certain times of the day for a certain number of minutes, and even limiting who we communicate with. I used to want this big friendship group and it never happened, and now I'm actually kind of relieved. I want to be able to maintain my friendships and relationships, and that's way more manageable when there's less of them. I don't make much time for acquaintances anymore because it's so much easier to focus on a smaller circle. I really wind my husband up by not being reachable by phone. It's because my phone, for the most part, is always on silent. I don't like my devices telling me when I should be using them. I like to have the freedom to go about my day undisturbed. I also don't have those red circle notifications on my phone, so again, I can choose when I want to check things like emails or messages. The act of deleting an email that you don't open might seem harmless, but it's wasted time. So now whenever I receive an email that I don't want to receive again, rather than deleting it straight away, I open it and unsubscribe first. And over time, the amounts of emails that I've received has actually reduced. Whether this is people, items, habits or mindsets, let go of anything that doesn't serve you. Give away clothes that don't make you feel good, even if they were expensive. Let go of the friend who brings constant drama into your life, even if they've been your best friend for 10 years. Cut out that habit that you know isn't good for you, but you've been telling yourself you can't. I know I sound ruthless, and maybe I am, but we don't need to overcomplicate our lives with things that we don't really want. Car journeys can be so relaxing if you're not rushing, so slow down and enjoy the drive. You don't need to go to the supermarket so urgently. Rushing just adds unnecessary stress. Either way, you're going to reach the same destination, and those few minutes that you carve off by rushing won't contribute much to your life, but travelling without feeling overwhelmed will. Whether this is friends, family, work, or even engaging in road rage, drama is unnecessary. I do believe in standing up for what I think is right, but I also have started to ask myself, is it worth the hassle? Sometimes you have to hatch things out if it's important to you, but if it's not that important, then sometimes it's okay to not prove that you're right. Sometimes we can just walk away. I really annoy my husband by being one of those girls that doesn't actually carry a handbag with me, so he can never give me his things to carry. The reason for that is I like to feel as light as possible. On a day-to-day basis, I only really take my keys, my phone and my bank card out, and when I do travel, I like to take as little as possible. I just think that when there's less of things, things are so much simpler, and I take this same approach for my home. I try to only have what I really need or want, and I have a set place for everything like receipts and proof of returns. That way I'm never having to look for things and I feel less overwhelmed. So those are my 20 ways that I like to make life feel simpler and easier. How do you like to simplify your life? Let me know in the comments and I'll see you in the next one.